Hi, Valerie Dawn here. Today I'm excited to share Frosted Petals with you, a quilt that delivers big visual impact with minimal fuss. The magic is in how simple blocks are arranged to create an intricate dancing pattern with a delicate frosted glow. If you're looking for a wow factor quilt that comes together easily, this one is for you. Let's get started. We're starting with the Snowball block. This is a gorgeous pastel fabric, and I had to have it as soon as I saw it. This is a really easy block. I have it folded and in quarters, so I have 4 layers here. 1. Right. Got those cut. I'm turning this one around, and I'm going to use my ruler to measure it. Right, now that I've got all these cut, I'm going to subcut them. These I'm going to lay out probably 2 at a time. Trim this off. Right. And that's a strip I will use later. Now these I have more cutting to do. This ruler's a bit heavy for this. I'm going to get my smaller ruler. There, that's not big enough to do anything with. This is another little trick I'm going to show you that is a lot of fun because it's going to make it super easy to use those triangles that we trim off the edge, because they're actually quite a good size and we don't want to throw them out. I'm going to use them later in another scrappy quilt project. So we'll put these on the edge. We draw this corner to corner line just as before. That's our stitching line. Then come over here another like a 1/2 inch. So use your ruler, that's my 1/2 inch line, line it up with the line you drew, and we're going to draw another stitching line. We will stitch both of these, and afterwards we're going to cut right down the center. When we discard this, we don't discard it at all. We have an actual 1/2 square triangle that's all ready to use. I just start at one corner and we're going to stitch all the way around and then all the way around again on our second line. It's a little bit more stitching, but it's ready-made for another nice little patchwork quilt. Once I've got all 4 corners, just start around again. And they're perfectly lined up. There's no pins this time around, so you don't have to take them out. It's a little bit quicker. Well, I like to trim off these threads and just make sure they're out of the way. It only takes a moment. There's our 1/2 inch. Line that up so you have a 1/4 inch. And trim right down the center. And then I'll have my corner here and another little 1/2 square triangle. I just press those toward the blue. I like to show you my progress as I get these blocks done. And I have all of these done, and you'll be amazed how fast those come together. We move on now to the Shoo Fly block. For this block, we're first going to make a 9 patch, and then we're going to stitch the floral corners on separately. And that's a shortcut method to do this. I'm cutting strips, and we have the blue strips. These are cut with the fabric. So I've got 4 layers here. That's usually between 42 and 44 inches. All right, so we stitch these strips together with a 1/4 inch seam, right sides together. I don't pin these. I just lay the strips together and stitch 1/4 inch. I have the first two stitched together. There we go. And the other one, we're making the top and bottom rows first, right sides together, and stitch 1/4 inch. There's my first strip set. This is for the top and bottom of the Shoo Fly. And I'm just going to press these toward the blue fabric. Trim off the selvage. And from there, we subcut the whole strip. Make sure it lines up nice with the grid on your mat. There's one all cut apart. And let's start on the middle strip set for our 9 batch. This is for the middle strip, and I need a floral, blue, and floral. And we stitch them together again with 1/4 inch seams. These ones we're going to press toward the blue. Again, we just trim the selvage. Now we make the 9 patch. And so we just put the blue, floral blue, top and bottom. This one in the center. Line these up. These will lock together because they're pressed toward the blue fabric. And stitch with a 1/4 inch seam and then press toward the center. That's our 9 patch. Now all we have to do is move on to the Shoo Fly. For the Shoo Fly, we still need to cut the corner patches, and I am just stacking them and then cut them. There's our completed 9 patch. I pressed it toward the center. And now all we need to do is stitch the floral patches on 4 corners, the same as we did with the Snowball patch. Now, just so you see, this overlaps that seam by a 1/4 inch, and it overlaps this one by a 1/4 inch. And when we stitch it, we're going corner to corner. My marker. I'm doing the same thing with this one. So I have 1/4 square triangles. Once I'm finished, move over a 1/2 inch. This is your second stitching line. I forgot my rotating. This makes it easier. It's okay if you don't have one. They're very handy though. So I don't have to move the fabric. I just rotate the little turntable corner to corner. I like to hold these on with a couple of little pins. All set, and then we just stitch both lines. As before, we just cut a 1/4 inch. It's pretty much right down the center. And we have our little extra bonus 1/2 square triangles. And this will flip up, and we have our Shoo Fly. Now, we're going to press these toward the floral. And these again, just press toward the blue. Here we are, our amazingly fast and easy Shoo Fly block. And I'm just going to point out that we have a 1/4 inch around the whole perimeter for those 1/2 square triangles on the corners. I've cut up all my patches. These are for the corner triangles of the Shoo Fly blocks. And this is just a trick to speed this up a little bit. My board has a diagonal. I could do it on my regular cutting mat too. Line them up so the points are on the diagonal. I'll use the 45-degree angle just to make sure I know I've got them in the right spot. Line them up like that and mark 2 at a time. And then move over my 1/2 inch. This is not an air erasable marker. This is the water erasable marker, but it's going to be the back side, and it'll never be seen, and it'll go away the first time the quilt's washed. So if I was using the air erasable marker, my lines would be gone before I got around to stitching it. So that's why I'm using this one. I've got a full stack of Shoo Fly blocks ready to go. I've drawn my stitches and pinned them all on. I always recommend making one patch. Just cut enough for one, or one strip set. Make sure you are familiar with the pattern before you cut them all out. And if you have made a mistake in any of the cuts, you will only you'll contain the problem to the first one till you're comfortable with it. I think that's a really good idea. But then I like to put them all together, make an assembly line, and just start marking, pinning, stitching all, like an assembly line. It just goes faster that way. And the other thing I wanted to make sure I pointed out, when you pin these to the corner, the large triangle is pointing in. The small one is pointing out. We're going to cut it here and flip this over. This is a stitch and flip, cut and flip. I'm not sure of the term. And now I'm going to go back to my sewing machine and start stitching. For the square in a square block, the first cut we're going to make is this beautiful blue-gray center square. I'll just trim up the end here. You'll notice I have a serger edge. I always pre-wash my fabrics, and I have a serger, so I always just do a stitch so they don't ravel in the wash and dryer. But you can do the same with a zigzag or even pinking shears if you choose to wash your fabric. As always, I recommend just making a few of these first till you make sure all the measurements are working for you. I'll remove that salvage. Now I'm going to do the pink corners. I'm using a beautiful Moda Grunge fabric called Ballet Slipper. It's this beautiful blush pink. I just love it. And we're going to cut these a little bit oversized, stitch them around the square in a square, and then trim it up to the right size. This is enough for one block. And then I'm going to cut it corner to corner. That gives me my 4 corners. I just eyeball it, 1/4 inch seam, flip it over. To make this go a little faster, I usually do stitch the triangles on opposite ends and then take it to the iron. I just flip these corners up and press, and then I stitch the corners on the other 2 sides. Just line them up. And then we just flip these other 2 sides up. The next step is really important. I'm using a Tucker Trimmer 3, and because it's a 1/2 inch, I use the side that has the half moon. You can do this with a square ruler as well. So from the point of the blue to the edge needs to be a 1/4 inch. Trim here, trim here. Turn it around, and now I can just trim this as well. One last step with these super easy blocks. We have this blue in the corner. I'm going to do the same thing. Put one on each corner, draw a line. Line them up. You could have drawn the line before you line them up, but that's okay. There, I'm going to draw my 1/2 inch line because I want to save the half square triangles on the edge. All right, we're all ready to stitch. All finished. Once again, trim to a 1/4 inch. That's it for this pretty block. I just love this. That turned out nice. They're square in a square. And now you can just take it all to the sewing machine and chain piece them, and it'll be really quick to finish. This was amazing how fast these three beautiful blocks came together. There's my finished square and square blocks with the beautiful frosted pink around the center gray blue. And at this point I am all ready to piece the inside of the quilt. Find a nice flat spot where you can lay out the blocks. Now, the little secret, this is the bed of my treadmill, which is a perfectly legitimate use of a treadmill. And I'm just laying out my rows, which I'm going to stitch together, the blocks in each row, press them in alternate directions toward the snowball, and then I'll do the second row, and then I'm going to piece the two rows together. It comes together really fast and easy. As you stitch the Shoo Fly block and the Snowball block together, you'll see that they line up very nicely because this one is this half square triangle on the corner is pressed this way, and the Snowball is pressed the opposite direction, so they fit together nicely. They just lock together like that. And if they don't line up perfectly, it's okay because this is a very forgiving design. We have the same nice opposite seams between the Shoo Fly and the square and the square. So when we flip them together, they fit nice. This one's pressed this way, this one's pressed this way, and they lock together. Let's just take a look at how we press each one of these seams. I like to put a little steam on it here. I still like to lay these seams flat. There's a little bit of a bulk on this seam right here, and that's okay. I think it's still better to press toward the square and a square. All right, that's for that side. This side, I just like to press on this side first to set the seam, and then I'm going to press toward the Snowball block. After you get two rows stitched together, we're going to just place them one on top of the other. And see this seam right here? That's the one we're going to line up right there. And I'll put a pin in there. I'm also going to pin it halfway. And then come over to the next intersection of blocks and line that seam up again. See right there? And since they're pressed in opposite directions, they just lock together nicely. And I'll put a pin here. So pin the whole two rows together, stitch 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to press it one way or the other. As you can see, I've got two rows stitched together, and I just wanted to show you a little trick I use when pressing these. I still like to press so that the Shoo Fly seams are flat. And as they alternate back and forth, I just flip the seam so that this Shoo Fly is flat and then this one is flat, and there's this discreet little flip here. And again here. Now if I just turn this over, you can see that they lay very nice and flat. From here, we're going to go really fast because we have some lovely simple borders to make. And I have the blue and the blue-gray and the pink. We lay it like this at right angles. Whenever I have a narrow border like this, I like to join them like this. I stitch all of my strips together like that, and then I just piece them around the outside border of the quilt, snipping them off at the ends in the width that I need. I have finished the 3 inside borders. I do the 2 opposite ends these way, and then add this, trim it square, and same with these. And I think that looks really pretty. Now I'm ready to attach the outer border, which is a wider border, and the corner Shoo Fly blocks. Just a few tips on adding the wide border. Dusty blue one. And the floral border, it's a wide one and a more narrow. And I've cut them with the fabric and then piece them in the center. This, I found the center of the quilt. This is a queen size quilt, so it's quite large. pin that in the center and then pin it along. Now, over here in the corner, I've already pasted this on this edge, and this is the Shoo Fly for the corner. I just wanted to show you that I pieced a couple of strips on the outside, because when I put this on the frame to quilt it, I need a little bit of space there, because sometimes it gets frayed around the edge. And I will also need some more space there to place the binding. So I wanted to extend the size of the Shoo Fly in the corner. So this fits here. This is cut with the fabric. I always place it on the quilt before I trim it. So this, and the other thing I want to point out is you want to make sure you don't cut this too short. Be very careful before you cut it. There's the 3 inner borders, and that's the wide one. This comes right to here. So you'll see, I know these are light colors, but this is where the pink and the floral meet. So our seam is right there. We need to cut that 1/4 of an inch. Now watch what you're doing. I've done stuff like this before. Don't get mixed up and cut it on one of these, on this seam. You need this furthest seam out, and I just lay it against, and make sure you get it that 1/4 inch from the seam. And right there. So I know I'm 1/4 of an inch past where that meets. I'm using this mark right here. Now, before I pin this in place, I need to attach the Shoo Fly to it. I bring these 2 edges together, pin it, and stitch right here. I've stitched this my 1/4 inch, and I pressed it toward the border so that my Shoo Fly points lay flat. This seam doesn't really matter right here where this comes together. And on this side, this is pressed toward the border. This one again doesn't matter. That gives these 2 seams opposite directions, so that lies nice and flat. When I pieced these with the fabric borders, I pressed the blue toward the floral on this side, and then I went the other direction with it on this side, so that lays nice and flat. This seam I like to press open. I don't cut this to size until I pin it on the quilt, because everybody's stitching is a little bit different, and on a large queen size this can be out by an inch or 2. We're done. We're ready to quilt. Are you ready to start your own Frosted Petals quilt? You'll find the pattern link in the description below, or you can take a look on my website at quiltwithval.com. And when you're done, pop over to my Facebook page and show it off. I love to see how these quilts take shape in your hands. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy quilting!